All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is 11:33 and it is a Wednesday. And so that means it is time for another edition of Workforce Wednesday. Woo! Good morning, all of you out there in video land. My name is Arya Zarenkook, and I am the Employment Training Specialist 3 for Arts, Media, and Entertainment at City College of San Francisco as part of the Strong Workforce Program Department. And today we're going to be talking about networking. And so I welcome you to Workforce Wednesday Networking Essentials Edition. Before we begin, I would love for the studio audience participants to tell us a little bit about yourself. Specifically, I'd love to know your name, your job goal, what you're hoping to learn from this workshop, and your astrological sign. So your name, job goal, what you're trying to receive from this workshop conversation, and your astrological sign. So, Yasmin, if I may ask, please unmute yourself and share.
Hello. So I'm Yasmin. My job goal is to be a professional stylist. That's what I've been going to school for, is styling. So to establish a styling business primarily for the under 18 crowd, for children. My goal with this is to get some tools for being better about networking, ways just to be better about that, how to be in networking situations and just to put myself out there more. And my astrological sign is I'm a Gemini.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for sharing all that wonderful information with us. A couple of invitations to consider. First and foremost, I invite you to take care of yourself as much as possible, because whenever we do meetings, especially right now and especially on Zoom fatigue is real. So if you need to take a break, take a break. If you need to walk away, walk away. If you need to bake the bread, do the laundry, eat some food, go to the bathroom, take a stretch, pet the cat, all the things that you need to do, I strongly encourage you to do so. Next, all the content that we're going to be talking about today, you're going to be receiving in a follow-up email from me, including the infographic and all the written form that we'll be talking. All the things that I'll be talking about, you'll be receiving in a written form as well. So I ask that if you have questions, please ask in any moment. And I always try to invite participants to frame questions in a manner that is universal, so that if someone else who watches this workshop later might have the same type of question, they'll be able to hear it deeper. As I've observed that sometimes in workshops, when people start saying, one time when I had this thing happen to me, I felt some kind of way, and everyone kind of just tunes out. So if possible, I would love it if you can just frame your questions in a way that's universal, because most of the time we all have the same type of question, if that makes sense. So I thank you for that. And lastly, it is just my intention manifestation to share the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that has been passed down to me by the elders in this space. And I'm really grateful for Mother Earth, and I'm really grateful for the Maitri Shaloni people, stewards of this unceded land, and all they've done to provide us with the abundance of this unceded land. So with all that said, let's talk about networking. So Yasmin, I would love for you to share with the studio audience, if possible, when we say go out and network, how does that make you feel?
It actually gives me a bit of anxiety.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You make this little, oh, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, just in terms of where am I going? Who am I going to meet? How should I be interacting? What should I be prepared for? I guess just wanting to present my best self and feeling some anxiousness about doing that.
Yes, this sweaty face, does this look familiar? Yes?
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your honesty and candidness. Yasmin, it is my intention and manifestation to bring a little bit of lightness and joy to the networking experience, so it can feel a little less mischievous for you. So for me, The entire purpose of networking is to acquire what's called an informational interview. Yasmin, are you familiar with this term?
No, I haven't heard that term.
Okay, so an informational interview, in essence, is where you, as a job seeker, get to ask questions of a person who has a job, skill, experience in a company, industry, or department you want to learn more about. And your entire intention with these informational interviews is twofold. The first explicit objective and intention is to collect data for your job search. So your first objective and intention with informational interviews is to collect data for your job search. And you do this by asking self-serving questions to learn more. So these questions will be thoughtful, passionate, savvy, and humble. They come from a place of curiosity and thirst for knowledge. You never ask for a job because that's just rude, right? And it's an opportunity to share your common passions as well as nerd out respectfully. So that is the first objective and intention of networking and informational interviews, is to acquire data for your job search. The second thing that you're doing with informational interviews is asking people questions that make them feel appreciated, valued, seen, known, validated, and loved. And these types of questions and experiences charm people into wanting to help you in the future. So an example of an appreciative question might be, if you're doing an informational interview with me and maybe you do some research on me and you see that I'm in a band, and maybe we're talking about what's it like to be in a band, you'll say, hey, Aria, I checked out this song by your band and I thought it was really cool when you had that one quote in the song. What was your favorite part of that song? These type of appreciative questions demonstrates that you've been very thoughtful and mindful about the time you've taken to craft questions with people. And this in turn charms them because people like to feel validated and valued and appreciated, especially right now in 2022. So again, the entire purpose of networking is to acquire informational interviews. An informational interview is where you get to ask questions of a person who has a job, skill, experience in a company, industry, department you want to learn more about. And it has two objectives. The first objective is to collect data for your job search. And you're going to do this by asking self-serving questions that are thoughtful, passionate, savvy, and humble. They come from a place of curiosity and thirst for knowledge. And you never ever ask for a job because that's rude. And it's an opportunity to just share your common passions and nerd out respectfully, right? Does anybody have any questions about the intention and purpose of informational interviews? Okay, and I also want to take a moment to welcome Janie A. Thank you so much for joining us, Janie. We're happy to have you here. All right, so before I talk about where to initiate these conversations, because that's actually the easiest part of the networking experience, I'm going to talk about a very specific and explicit timeline in how to manage and maintain relationships with informational interview contacts. So let's say tomorrow, Thursday, September 29th, you had an informational interview scheduled with the head of the department of your dream job at your dream company. You would spend 1 hour today preparing your questions, doing research on the company and organization, doing research on the individual, coming up with a list of self-serving questions and a list of appreciative questions, remembering your dual intention of collecting data for your job search, as well as charming people into wanting to help you in the future. At the end of this workshop, I will send over an informational interview checklist, which will have 20 to 25 different questions to consider asking, all to get the brainstorm going. 3 of the most powerful questions that I always invite clients to consider asking in an informational interview are, number 1, how can I help you? Because the secret to wealth is generosity. Number 2 is, can we stay connected on LinkedIn? Because you want to see who you are connected to and who your connections are connected to. And then lastly, if you sense the energy between you and this informational interview contact is appropriate, you could always ask, you know, in our conversation, I've learned so much from you. Who else could you introduce me to so I may continue learning? So let's say you meet with this person on Thursday, September 29th. Friday, September 30th, you send an immediate email thanking them. Dear Aria, thank you so much for taking the time to connect with me about what you do and how you do it and why you do it. I learned so much. If I can ever be of any help, please let me know. Sincerely, and your name. And then this person will think, oh, wow, Janie, polite, positive, professional. I like that. Then you calendar another follow-up for 2 weeks later. So Friday, October 14th. On Friday, October 14th, you send an email to your informational interview contact, giving them an update on an action item you took based on the conversation you had with them. So you draft an email and you say, Dear Aria, based on our conversation, I went and I did this thing. It was super helpful. Thank you so much. Then your informational interview contact will think, oh, wow, Yasmin, proactive. I like that. I like that. Then you calendar another follow-up for 30 to 45 days later. So anywhere between November 14th and November 29th. And you send this informational interview contact of yours another email. And this can be related to anything that you had that conversation with them about. It could be things such as, Dear Arya, I was going to go to this networking event. What do you think? Or I was going to learn this skill. Do you think it's worth it? Or I saw this article and it made me think of our conversation. Or I just finished a portfolio project. Would you be willing to take a look? Or I just finished my website altogether. Your intention with this follow-up process and procedure is to make sure that your informational interview contacts are constantly thinking about you, that you're at the top of their mind. For if you are on the top of their mind, when opportunities come to them, be it internally at their institution or organization or externally from outside sources and colleagues or a professional network, they are going to tell you about the job. And this, y'all, is the most effective and efficient way to find opportunities in this world right now. So my biggest invitation to you is start doing informational interviews. The sooner the better, even when you feel like you're not ready, because this is actually a really wonderful, positive first step into learning what is it that I need to know? What is it I know that I don't know some things. What are those things, right? What is it that I don't know? So after you've done the informational interview and you followed up 1 day later, with gratitude, and then you followed up 2 weeks later, giving them an update on an action item you've taken, and then you follow up 30 to 45 days later with any kind of question or update. I invite you to keep doing this every 30, 45 days, just so you stay on your people's radar. It's a little taxing, and that's why we have calendars, and calendars can be really helpful and powerful in doing this work. So the next logical question becomes, where do I find these people? Where do I find these people? So whenever working with clients, I invite them to step into an abundance mindset and ask them, what is it that they are and what is it that they have? So my question to you all in the studio audience is, do you have friends who have jobs, skills, experiences in companies, industries, departments that you want to learn more about, that you could reach out to do an informational interview with? If so, I invite you to use this very succinct, concise, and sincere language to reach out to them. You could shoot someone an email or a text, or even call them and say, hey, Aria, would you be willing to meet with me so I can ask you some questions about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it in order to learn more? Please let me know, and thank you for considering my request. The emphasis in this request is wanting to learn more, right? If we just posit that our conversation is in the name of learning more, most of the time people are taken aback and like, oh, you want to learn from me? I have wisdom to share, which we all do. It just excites people, and they usually want to connect if bandwidth would allow for that. If for whatever reason you do not have anyone in your immediate network that comes to mind, I would invite you then to just share with your immediate network who you're looking for. What kind of people who have jobs, skills, experiences, who work at certain companies, industry departments you are looking for. So then that way, your friends are helping you connect and introduce you to people who do this work, right? Because you never know if your best friend of 10 years might actually have another friend who does the exact same thing that you want to learn more about. So activating your network to help you find opportunities is really powerful in this casual manner. Another really wonderful resource for informational interviews that's immediately at your fingertips are your instructors. Your instructors are super powerful because, number one, they are very, very experienced and very talented, and thus have very interesting stories to tell. Number two, they're also very well connected and have a large professional network and are more than willing to introduce you to people once you have demonstrated that you are worthwhile, usually just building a little bit of trust and coming prepared, right? Number three, your success is their success. So when you go out and do good in this world, they're going to say, yeah, we taught them how to do that. And lastly, I've just observed that when a student puts time and energy into a teacher naturally puts time and energy back into the student. So it becomes a relationship of sacred reciprocity. These two beginning places or resources are the place that I invite you to start building your informational interview muscle, especially if you've never done it before, because these two groups are safe and they're in our comfort zone. Once you find mastery or safety in these spaces, there are a couple of online resources that I would invite you to utilize to go and seek out other informational interview contacts. Those online resources are linkedin.com, eventbrite.com, meetup.com, and even a wonderful resource that's not listed on the infographic, but I am putting it in the chat, and it's called adplist.org. adplist.org, in essence, is a website, an international website, where people have signed up to be open to having conversations and connecting with those who want to learn more about specific topics. So I'd invite you to start looking for people who are doing the similar types of work that you're interested in learning, and then reach out to them and ask them for a little bit of their time using the language, would you be willing to meet with me so I can ask you some questions about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it in order to learn more? Thank you for considering my request. Some other really wonderful online resources as well are meetup.com and eventbrite.com. So first I'm going to start with meetup.com. Meetup.com, in essence, is a website where people put together events related on a variety of different topics. And then people learn about them through the website, and they get together and they do the thing. So you can see there's a keyword search bar here and a neighborhood or city or zip code location bar here. So I would invite you to type in jobs, skills, companies, industries, departments, type in your zip code or neighborhood, hit search, and look to see what's happening in your area. So maybe you go to a styling meetup, or you see Macy's is having some kind of event. You go to the event and the keynote speaker says something really interesting that intrigues you and you want to learn more about them. You would approach them and just use the same language. Hey, Aria, I really appreciate what you had to say about blank topic. Would you be willing to do me a favor and meet with me later so I can ask you some questions about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it in order to learn more? Please let me know. Thank you for considering my request. Again, the emphasis here is on learning, letting the informational interview contact know you just want to learn from them, and that is all. When you go to these on land or even online networking events, I would invite you to set up the informational interview for later, not at the actual event itself. Because when we're at the event, people don't want to feel as if your time is being monopolized or you're being cornered or anything like that, right? We want to make it an easy, wonderful, and accessible process for both people, especially your informational interview contact. Eventbrite operates under the same way. There are search bars. And so I would invite you to use meetup.com and Eventbrite, type in job, skills, company, industry, departments, type in your neighborhood, city, or zip code, and go to these events. And then keep an eye out for someone to do an informational interview with later. I would also invite you to go and do the things that you normally love to do in the world and just pay attention to who's around and talk to people. Because you never know, maybe you go to a hiking meetup because that's what you love to do. And on this hiking meetup, you meet someone who is doing work that you find interesting and would love to do an information interview with. So it's super powerful just to be mindful and aware of who you are around and the space you're with and who you're sharing space with, excuse me. And just asking the universe to provide, because the universe usually provides us. The last really powerful online resource for this work is LinkedIn.com. And LinkedIn.com is super powerful because it's an international professional networking site that has over 800 million users across 200 different countries. And the reason why LinkedIn is super powerful is because we have this search bar. And in this search bar, we can type in the names of companies, skills, departments. We can even type in the names of specific jobs. So maybe I can type in the word stylist and I hit all results. And then I see all the people results that have the word stylist happening. In essence, what I'm doing is looking at who is either in my direct purview, so a first degree connection, or in this sense, I can see, I have it filtered so it'll be open. So I can see all the different people that I'm connected to that are then connected to stylists. So for example, I'm connected to an Ina Sky Nikolskaya, who's connected to a Lauren McMurdo, who's a senior stylist at the photo studio at Anthropology. Or I am connected to Bianca Nunez, who is connected to Elizabeth Rivas Bashaman, who's connected to a fashion stylist at Neiman Marcus Group, right? So I'm looking, wardrobe stylist. So maybe what I will do is I'm going to, and if this is all, of course, with Yasmin's consent, Yasmin, I'm going to reach out to my colleague Ina, who I already know is a stylist, and I will also reach out to her on your behalf. But I'm going to ask her to reach out to Lauren to see if if Ina would be willing to introduce you to Lauren so you could do an informational interview with Lauren about what's it like to be a senior stylist at the photo studio in Anthropology. Does that sound okay?
Yes, that does. Thank you.
My pleasure. So step one is I take a screenshot and I'll be revealed in a moment as to why. I come to Ina's profile. I go to her contact info. I copy her email address. I come into my inbox and I draft an email to her and I BCC Yasmin on the language and I write 2 favors because I'm going to be asking her for 2 favors. Normally, I would just ask, I would write a favor, right? I say, good afternoon, Ina. I hope this email finds you well and at peace in this moment. I am working with an emerging stylist who specializes in clients under the age of 18. And I have 2 favors to request of you. Number 1, would you be willing to do an informational interview with them so they may learn more about you, your work, and your career trajectory? 2, on LinkedIn, I see that you are connected to a Lauren Machado at Anthropology. And this is where then I grab the screenshot and I drop it in really quickly. McMurdo. I knew I didn't have it right. And I make sure I spell everybody's name right. McMurdo and Anthropology. Then I say, would you be willing to do me a favor and connect my colleague to Lauren so that they may do an informational interview with Lauren to learn more about Lauren's work and their career trajectory? Please let me know. And thank you for considering my request. Sincerely, Arya. Sent. So Ina may come back and say yes. Ina may come back and say no. Ina may come back and may not say anything. She may not come back at all. My intuition tells me Ina will always respond because I've worked with Ina in the past and she's always really wonderful and super excited to help. It is just my intention manifestation to show y'all how to use LinkedIn to find someone that either you are directly connected to or that you are mutually connected to with the hopes of requesting an informational interview, which is the entire purpose of networking. Does anybody have any questions about any of the items we've been talking about today in regards to networking? None? Okay. Feel complete, huh? Okay, that's wonderful. Do y'all have, so just a quick review, the purpose of networking, informational interviews. What is an informational interview? Collecting data for your job search and charming people into helping you. You manage and maintain these relationships by doing a day after follow-up email, expressing gratitude, a 2-week follow-up email in order to give them an update on an action step that they've suggested, and then you maintain contact with them every 30 to 45 days using calendars. We find these people through friends, instructors, and online resources such as adplist.org, meetup.com, eventbrite.com, and linkedin.com. And we always use the language, would you be willing to do me a favor and connect with me later so I may ask you some questions about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it in order to learn more. And that, ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, is how to network effectively. Does anybody have any questions at all? If you're feeling complete, I'm more than happy to give you the rest of the time back. Going once, going twice. All right, 3 times a lady. Thank you so much to Yasmin. Thank you so much to Janie. My name is Arya Zarenkook, Employment Training Specialist 3 for Arts, Media, and Entertainment, serving visual media design, broadcast electronic media arts, cinema, fashion, and photography students at City College of San Francisco's Strong Workforce program. This has been another edition of Workforce Wednesdays Networking and Networking Essentials. And as always, I like to close with nourish yourself and others, cause no harm to self and others, and ease the suffering of self and others. Think good, speak good, be good, do good, and feel good. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you on the next episode of Workforce Wednesdays. Take care.